Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be here today. It's occasion, a talk that was in the works already a couple of years before, and then COVID came and cancelled everything. But here I am. Ta-da! Today I'm going to talk about a couple of different productions and try to open a little bit my designer perspective to different kind of productions. And I was just thinking about this earlier. I hope that it's not too controversial approach, given the fact that we are in the middle of a technical exhibition here, that my approach a lot of times is very counter-technical. It's like technology comes last. So I'm going to be mocking technology a lot. But anyways, that's maybe one of the principles or one of the small details of the day. But I think my plot for how usually you have to start with a joke, right? So to get everything off, start on the right foot. But my plot for the start was completely messed up 10 minutes ago when the person who is to blame for my whole career walked in. And Juha Lahtinen from Kotka City Theatre, who is my first boss, is here. So he's the guy who hired me a couple of years ago. And who knew back then that we will meet in this kind of circumstances one day. Anyway, lighting, and basically lighting and visual design, as the title says, the unspoken resonance. I feel that it's the whole design process is a lot about this. I think where we get things wrong in many productions is that we start to follow sort of the literal storyline of the play or the song or whatnot. I think, let's say more than 90% of our communication is non-verbal, and this is where lighting is very strong and the visual design is very strong. So we have a lot more to offer and to bring to the table when it comes to creating a performance than just a literal story. Some weeks back I saw this description. I think it was related to something completely different, but I think it sort of set the stage really nicely, defined what the visual design for performance and for stage is. Like if you think of, let's say a Coke can that is wrinkled like that, you put it here on the table and somebody comes and throws it in the trash. But when you put the same Coke can in an art gallery on a post, people go and they look at it in a whole different way, and they start to think about the whole society and our relation to these kind of things in the world. This is basically, to put short, what we do, for lighting and visual design. That's our job. So also, maybe 20 years ago, I already said that I think when you talk about, for example, contemporary dance, that a really shit piece of choreography can look really great if the lighting designer knows what he's doing. So this is basically the same thing, and it may be a little bit rough to say it like that. Anyways, so here we go. Other qualities I feel that visual design and especially lighting design has on stage or in a production is that light is the connection between the different parts. This has especially been underlined in productions that I've done with Cirque du Soleil, where different numbers, for example, come from different acrobats, different artists. So I don't know if everybody knows, but usually a circus artist has his or her own number, their routine that they know and that they do in different shows, and then these different numbers are put together in different kind of ways in different productions to create a production. So not all the numbers are always created for this particular production, if you know what I mean. So that's also somewhere where light is very important, how you design the visual, because it connects different kind of elements in these storylines. That's also one of my favorite philosophic slides. This kind of refers to the fact that our industry, as we call it, or I maybe better call it our art of visuals, the art of lighting, video, and stage visuals, is easily very technical. And we tend to easily make it sort of like work like an Excel sheet and think that if we do so and so, then the results will be this and this and this. And or even myself, I sometimes fall in the category of presenting myself as a designer who really knows what I'm doing, when really what I want to, where I want to end up in any production is ending up somewhere that I don't know what I'm doing. That's art. If I know what I'm doing, I'm an engineer. So that's the difference. And anyways, like if the design process is really good or is successful, then you end up on stage with something, a situation where the stage sort of surprises you, maybe not daily, but at least a couple of times in the production. So you have to be open to the situation, open to the moment, and recognize when something very special is happening on stage that was actually not your creation, but circumstance of you working and other people working. This way, I think that's the best sides of the whole thing. And of course, I take the opportunity of advertising. So I have my own photo exhibition going on in Helsinki in the Theatre Museum, which is a collection of photos from the past 20-25 years in different productions. And the reason I show these is that, at least for me, it's very clear that one of the sort of big themes for me has always been darkness and light and the contrast in between. And I think it's very easy to see in the photos such as these. And it also goes even beyond the lighting design. It goes to the set design, staging solutions and design choices that I've made, that they always somehow discuss with the lighting and discuss with the possibility of lighting. I'll show you a couple of examples later on what it means. One of my favorite pictures, I know that Fredrik Jönsson was coming, so I needed to celebrate our path together. 2016 Eurovision Song Contest is, this picture is my favorite picture of all the productions that I've ever done for TV. This is where everything clicked together and we could all retire after that. So that was great. Sort of the same thing goes for like sketching that I do a lot. And basically the same process happens with the sketching. Like this is a good example. It was a sketch for the ring cycle at the Finnish National Opera. Now if somebody would ask me like, so how was this done? I would not know. Because there were a couple of softwares and situations involved, and then I ended up with this, and it sort of resonates with what then later on happened on stage. Then of course I'm using, like everybody, I'm using 3D previous these days. A small advertisement for Depends. It's a really good piece of software. And for example, this production that was done a little bit more than a year ago in Finland, a hockey arena size production, an ice ballet of Snow Queen, where our biggest challenge was the production schedule. We had one day of setup at the arena and one day of rehearsals for a full evening, let's say a Cirque du Soleil level show. And the way we pulled it off was very detailed pre-production and pre-programming in 3D, and also on a scale model that was on my studio floor. And was also very helpful to get all the volumes right. And I feel like the design for ice ballets is sort of resonates a lot the same qualities as the design for a classical ballet. So you have to understand a little bit our consider the dynamics and qualities of movement, and so that you give enough space for the talent on stage. So that was really important to sort of master everything before we get get to live at the arena. And this is from the opening night at the arena. So again, like let's say the video and the lighting and the sets sort of merged together in a pretty nice way. One of the aims of this production was also to give even the nosebleed section in the arena the best seats in the house, and that was delivered like 100%. So there's that. Some examples of Cirque du Soleil productions. Also, in some ways, for me, they are the most challenging ones, especially in terms of security. There are certain similar qualities to classical ballet and even contemporary dance, but ballet and dance don't really have a risk of death in every rehearsal and every show, and circus acts tend to have that sometimes. So that makes things a little bit more complex from a lighting point of view. Goes to the details of how you maneuver your console and how much you have to think of what you're doing as an operator, programmer, stuff like that. Because if you get it really seriously wrong, it can be very dangerous to the performance. So, but on the other hand, I feel like when we have reached a certain trust between the artist on stage and myself and my team, we can do incredible things that we could not do in classical ballet, or we could not do in contemporary dance even. And working with circus was always like, for me, it was a dream come true. Like all, you know, from those days back in my hometown in the theater, seeing like the first videos of Cirque du Soleil, you thought like, oh, if one day I could do that. So you got to be careful what you dream about, and it might become reality. And it happened to me. So been very lucky to be able to work at this level in the world of circus. And then when your design is done, then the photography is not shabby either. So that's also a nice hobby to have in those circumstances. Yeah. But as you can see, the light is a massive element in these shows. And of course, the recent development of lighting fixtures has been like a holy grail for me, at least, you know, to be able to work with the brightness and the sharpness of beams and the definition. Though I still believe like some of the qualities of the old tungsten and the neat hammers and stuff is something that we can't reach with the contemporary equipment yet. I hope we get there one day. So yeah, that's circus for you. Another Cirque du Soleil production in Saudi Arabia in 2022, where I was in both of these productions I'm showing here. I was the sets and lighting designer. So this one was like the theme behind the show was the best of Cirque, and we really had the best of Cirque in terms of numbers, acrobats and all that, and the music. The stage design was inspired naturally by the big top design of Cirque, so the classical big top tent. And I felt like it was really smooth design process, because all you had to do is just to illustrate what you thought was the sort of perfect Cirque show. Easy. One of the elements was a funny detail. One of the elements, a small element, was like an 8-meter circle in the background that I called the donut. That invited 60 JDC1 strobes. It was also called the sun. So was really cool, and I think it was just before Christmas when the sets workshop in Dubai, they called me and said, hey, we're going to send you a sample so we can finalize the surface. And I said, I just put it in the post and send it to my home address. So they send it, and then the DHL calls me and says, hey, we need to drop you a package. I said, yeah, you can drop it at my home. It was supposed to go there. I said, we don't really think that it can really fit your mailbox, because it was the size of a table. So I was standing with that in the snow. But it turned out really nice. We finalized the 3D pre-programming in Finland, in my studio. And the ready product looked amazing. I was really happy with how the background sort of merged together with the projection. So sometimes you couldn't say if it's a physical piece of set or projection or both. And this was really cool. And another classic of Cirque is Slava's snowstorm effect from the original Allegria, which we also did in Saudi Arabia. I've done this effect a couple of times, and it's funny because it's thought of as this massive snowstorm on stage, coming from stage to the audience. And as I worked on the new Allegria in Canada in 2019, I discovered that the best way to do it is really to use as few lights as possible. So we only had 4 spots on stage and a big fan blowing the confetti onto the audience, and as you can see, the effect is brilliant. Not too expensive. So nice way of merging lighting and video and sets. And then we move on to the big beast of my career, I would say. I've been designing the sets, lighting and video for Wagner's Ring Cycle in Helsinki at the National Opera now since 2016. With all the COVID and everything, now we are opening the last piece of the Ring this May, which is Götterdämmerung, and it's more or less 6-hour opera, and altogether this is like more or less 16 hours of music. So it's a massive beast, and it's like once in a lifetime opportunity for a designer to get to do the Ring, and it's been quite a ride. But I felt like for me it's a perfect production, because this called for sort of like a concept first thinking in terms of visuals. So the towers you see on stage here are 360 pieces of set, so they can be used in any orientation, and they have some moving parts on top, so the sort of smaller pillars can go up and down, and they are sort of the backbone of the whole design for the whole opera, for whole 4 operas, and they are used in different kind of configurations through the different productions. One side of the towers is LED screen, and the other sides are physical set piece. So there you see the screens are there in black. Then we have some rocks and other set pieces like the Ring of Fire. Of course, you need to have a Ring of Fire when you're doing a ring. So that sort of things. There's the Ring of Fire from the back. There's a 3D thing of it, and there's the Ring of Fire in action. And it's pretty cool when it lights up the flames. Now we are opening, as I said, we're opening the last part of the Ring in mid-May, and if somebody's coming to see, don't listen to this, but in the last part it's fantastic. It breaks in 2 and then it drifts away in parts. It's quite amazing. So, and I never thought that I would put because I usually think like, okay, there's some effects, like if you do on stage, they should take away your license, and one of them is putting flames on screen. And I thought that I'd never do it, but I've done it in Ring, but they didn't claim my license yet. I hope they won't. So in Ring, certain set pieces and lighting themes even are circulated from one opera to the other. One of the themes is the theme of the golden ring, which is also seen in the lighting, and we are using some tracking to follow the performer as well. The physical set design goes nicely together with the screen content and the back projection that you see way back there. And then the second piece, the second piece was Siegfried. See a little bit different manipulation of the sets. So they kind of form this dystopic cityscape in the back. Still pretty simple, but yeah, for me it's kind of natural to do stuff like that. It's kind of minimalistic, but in a massive scale. And some levitating singers, as you do. One of our stagehands in his better days. And yeah. Then from Ring I jumped to an old favorite, which is the Swan Lake at the Royal Danish Ballet. This is a production that opened in 2015. Swan Lake is, of course, one of the big classics of ballet. And I was very honored to be commissioned new sets and lighting and video design for this classical work. And of course, the traditional take on Swan Lake and classical ballet looks something like that. And I'm not a very classical person in terms of visuals. So in the process, I was struggling quite a long time first, like to try to incorporate this kind of style as well in this production. But then after the first kind of sketches, it was pretty evident that something else is cooking. And again, the end result and sort of the main theme of this, especially the set design, or maybe even better, like the combination of sets, lighting and video, was very simple. So there's this kind of like a cut out forms in the sets that are just like black shapes floating in space. And also pretty typical to me that this idea originated from the practical problem of ballet, which is that in ballet, whatever kind of design you do, you usually need to leave the floor empty for the dancers. And on the other hand, as a designer, you want to fill the space with a lot of different kind of visuals. So then I thought of like, what if this becomes the strength of this design? So nothing is really static, but the legs can fly, and you can dream big. And then the ballet, they loved the idea, and I did the scale model, and this was like the first setup on stage. So I think it was not too far from the scale model. And I was kind of like really nervous about it, because this was not based on anything that I'd have seen somewhere before, but it was just a result of a painful process. Because just before Swan Lake, I had thought of like, okay, maybe this whole design thing is over. Like maybe I have to do something else. So I decided, okay, let's do 2 more productions and see how it goes. And let's treat if I treat the Swan Lake process in a way that I try to give it everything I can, and then I see what does it make any difference. And so naturally the success was a massive, and I think for me, from the angle of my sort of like visual designer career, is a turning point in a way. Using these kind of simple structures, also in a way that this kind of opera house can maneuver within their repertoire. Usually you would have from say 2 p.m. until 6 p.m. maximum for the setup, usually less. So any kind of solution that you introduce has to fit in this kind of time frame on stage. And these are from the first stage sessions. Working with in Swan Lake, working with Swedish green wall designs, content projection content studio. We did this one session, and this fantastic idea came about that what if all the screen content is created out of the same shape as is one of the legs on stage? And that's what happened. And that was like, I think already there and then I realized that this kind of genius moment will never happen again. Like, this is fantastic. So, and I think it's sort of like a unified production in a really amazing way. This is a photograph from, I think it was the first test of the front projection, beginning of the piece. You see the side lights piercing through behind the front gauze, and then opening the stage with the back projection that is created out of the same shape. And there's just different kind of variations of the same visual. Then, of course, amazingly, Ralph Larman came to photograph the production, and I will be forever thankful for these photos. And actually, next year, as it will be the, I'll play this back. Next year, as it will be the 10th anniversary of this production, we are planning to do a reshoot and sort of to celebrate the occasion. It's not so often that you have production these days running for 10 years, and I'm very happy about that. So here you can see how the sets were moving on stage. And again, the sets themselves are very 2D, but working together with the lighting and the video and the transparency, that's what created the 3D picture of the stage. Then we jump almost 10 years ahead and start talking about like things that are happening right now. So with choreographer Jorma Elo, we created a new Sibelius 4th Symphony ballet for the Royal Danish Ballet. Just, I think it was 2 weeks ago that we opened this one. The parameters for this creation were a little bit different, as the choreography had not been done at all when I had my 2 days on stage with projections and everything and the lighting. So I had to base my design decisions on the music and the dramaturgy of Sibelius music and the design of the costume. So I spent 2 days on stage in Copenhagen, and these are some of the days when I really thank my tools. I love to use Hypnotizer media server because of its capacity of dealing with multiple layers of images and videos. And I never found another media server or tool that can do exactly the same in such a creative way. So basically all of these backgrounds are created with still images that were created within 2 days. When I started there on stage on Monday, I had nothing. So I opened my computer, okay, let's start creating from the costumes. And after 2 days, mainly guided by the look of the costume and as well the drama and the spirit of the music, this sort of like painting-like backdrops were created. So the Fourth Symphony is like maybe the darkest work of Sibelius. I think it's fantastic. There's some nice descriptions about the music, like the sentence that every movement fades into silence. And I feel like this somehow, to me, it completely resonates with the way that I think of lighting as a sort of compromise to darkness. If you think of a perfect situation, it's a pitch dark stage. That's when things are perfect. When first light is lit, something is taken away. So one possibility at least is cancelled. So in darkness, everything is still possible. Each light is taking something away. So this is something that really resonates with me as well.
That's it.
Then it's describing the music, text that is describing the music, that the idea of these forms, the contrast, variation, development of the themes. So only the essential is left. Basically, very easy to relate to. So here we have 5 pieces of content for the screen, which was, I think it was like 97% of everything that I had. So only these stills were used to create every backdrop that was seen on stage. And 2 of these were something that I had like from the past. Like the first picture was something that I made for my own fun, like back in 2017. So sometimes it's good to do some sketching, because then it finds its place like years later somewhere, saves a production. Another production that has been ongoing at the same time as the Sibelius is our new version of Macbeth, which is a co-production between a dance company called Tero Saarinen Company in Helsinki and a Finnish theater company called Tampereen Työväen Teatteri. So actors and dancers and Macbeth. Again, I felt like this topic is perfect for me, because it's a lot about darkness, it's a lot about contrast, it's a new way of bringing together actors and dancers. And there was this kind of theme of a forest, so I wanted to create this forest with the kind of ropes, but then in the end of the piece it turns out that they're actually light sources. So they were these thick silicone hoses that had some bright LEDs inside, and it was quite nice, because a lot of times we see LED and it's always very straight and very stiff and very technical. So this one was fantastic, because it brought exactly that kind of like organic quality that you can tie yourself in it and do stuff like this on stage. Here's a short video clip of the magic of forest. This is towards the end of the piece, where they are coming down from the roof. They come from all the way up, and then you'll see the wiggling, so see the organic nature of them. Macbeth is an interesting production. It's a production for a big stage, 22 meters by, I don't know, 15 meters. So a major stage, big stage size production. And as I said in the beginning, I'm not always a big fan of technology. So this production uses on stage 21 light sources plus 1 video projector. So I have 13 Mac Ultras, that are the only moving lights up in the rig, and then there's 4 side lights, and that's it. And it's production of 1.5 hours. And actually, yes, one of the Finnish critics wrote in a newspaper that it's a light show, and I was like, I have become the sensei now. This is it. 21 lights, and it's a light show. Great. So that's a compliment. So yeah. Then also, for example, the dance floor is manipulated so that suddenly the performers are removing part of the dance floor and using that as a flying carpet. So, and revealing a white dance floor underneath, which becomes the projection surface. So that kind of weird stuff is cool to do. Yeah. And I think last but not least is production that we are rehearsing at the moment. And I'm skipping rehearsals today, but continuing tomorrow at the National Theatre is a duet of 2 actors, a piece called Eichmann, a drama theatre at the National Theatre in Helsinki. And also one of the things that is a dream come true, I get to do my first production in the National Theatre and get to do the sets and lighting design for this, and it's going to be a fantastic show. And that's it. And then we're open for questions, I guess.
Thanks a lot, Mikki.
Thanks.
Excellent presentation. Do we have questions in the audience? Please be free. That's your opportunity to ask Mikki everything you ever wanted to know about his artistical process or his designs, or technical questions about his favorite light source or whatever one would want to know. There's a microphone. Just get up, ask your questions. If not, I'll start. Of course, the big question is, when you said, like, this might be the last 2 shows I ever do, where were you stuck as an artist, or what was going on there?
No, I think it's. I'm sure that it's a question that anyone would sort of like encounter every now and then if your aim is to develop yourself and like that. So I've always been in a kind of like a serious person in that sense, that I look for some kind of like I don't know, deepness in the work that I do. So and try to develop. I think, you know, I tend to say, like, as an artist, you only have one job, and that is to find your own voice. That you don't have any other job but to find your own voice, whatever it means. It might be silence, who knows? But that's been sort of like the guiding principle for like decades. Of course, it takes like some time before you realize what you are even thinking yourself, like what is the thing that is driving me and stuff like that. And but I think it's very fruitful to consider your values and actions in order to be able to collaborate also.
What helped you then to pull through there? Was it like something, like, where do you go when you're stuck? Like, where do you source your inspiration? Is it going out in nature? Is it researching other artists' work? Is it doing something that you have never done before? Can you pinpoint it? Something that really helped you to then find your voice again, or find, because that's something, if your work really spans decades, the question is, how do those artists who always come up with new stuff find new inspiration, find new energy?
I think in a big picture, it has to do with such kind of like core values of what your career and your work means to you, what the collaboration, what's the most important thing in working in this sort of field. And I kind of discovered that it's for sure the best thing about the whole business is the people. and then you want to work with good people and do nice productions where people are treated in a good way, and but also that there is this kind of passion that you share, creating something new, and a lot of times, you know, the productions and environments that are the most daring ones to go and reach for new places are the ones such as Tero Saarinen company, contemporary dance, freelance company.
Yeah.
The more business is involved, the less daring usually, because somebody, you know, wants to be sure that we get money out of this. So
you need
then
to
it's a
strike
balance,
between being involved into commercial productions and artistical productions, sort of.
But also the commercial productions, they benefit out of the fact that you also work with the freelance productions. So because then you sort of like use that as a laboratory for new thoughts and new experiments and stuff like that, which sometimes is not possible in the bigger ones.
Are there questions in the audience in the meantime? Please. Just raise a hand, I'll be with you. If not obvious question, any industry in the world right now is wondering how generative AI might change an artist's process. Do you think about it? Do you use it? Do you see other designers coming in using those tools and creating stuff you didn't think was possible, or in a time frame which wasn't possible before?
Well, I think for sure it's inspiring and also somehow like I don't know, mind-blowing tool in a way. I think the good side of it, in a way, from our perspective, is that AI can't dance ballet. It can't sort of interact with people, you know, in our behalf, in a way. So I think as long as we are doing theater for people, we are fine. But in terms of, like, for example, you know, creating video content or stuff like that, as a technical tool, of course, it's interesting. And
somebody just might feed all your designs into his AI and come up with something that looks like Mikki.
I thought about it, like maybe I can do that. So like I can, you know, sort of have like my library of productions, and then somebody wants to, you know, somebody asked me to do a Tosca, and I'll just right there like make Tosca like me, and it's done in 2 seconds. So maybe that's the way of retiring for our generation. I don't know. But I think, you know, sometimes I also say that, you know, artificial intelligence, I think we are still struggling with the real intelligence. So let's try to find that first.
You said that the most important for you is really working with the people and with the right culture and mindset. But I guess there is a lot of tech geeks sitting here as well. So speaking from a technological perspective, what do you see coming up in the next years that you're really interested in, or that you would like to get your hands on? You mentioned a couple of tools you really like. So what else is out there where you think you might look into in the next years? And feel free to name drop tools, technologies or whatever.
No, I think for me it's really interesting to see what the younger generation is gonna bring to the table. I think at the moment we are somehow globally kind of like speed blind to all this technological advancement that happens so fast. So what it means in reality is that all the productions are starting to look the same. So I think the designers have not caught up yet, and there must be like a really hungry generation of young designers coming in and doing something that is not so technical, but has also like a strong expressive quality to it. That's what I'm waiting for.
All right, I think as we did before, if you do have questions, use the opportunity that Mikki is here. I'm sure he'll not run off right away. He'll be here for a couple more minutes. Approach him directly. I'm pretty sure he's very happy to talk to you guys. Thanks a lot for joining us today, Mikki. Glad we could do it after so many years post-corona.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My pleasure.